I am a Netflix dating show addict. I have watched Love is Blind, Too Hot to Handle, Dated and Related, The Ultimatum, anything they've ever produced, any rom-com they've ever produced. I have a sickness inside of my head that thinks that these shows are going to be enjoyable and good, and every single time they make me feel like there is something wrong with the way that humans interact with each other. The way that people watch train crashes, that's sort of the way that I feel compelled to watch every single Netflix dating show. So the basic premise of Age of Attraction is that they have 40 singles in a villa dating each other, but nobody knows each other's ages, and it's sort of supposed to be like Love is Blind if age was blind, except that the thing about age, and I'm gonna hold your hand when I say this, you can usually tell somebody's age by looking at them. And I know that there's like a variance of like, oh, someone might be 40 but they look 30, but like when you are a 60-year-old person and you're looking at a 23-year-old, you can tell, and we all know that you can tell. I understand that people are agreeing to be on this show, but it's sort of like, do we always have to be giving them an outlet? The more reviews that I've seen about it, the more horrendous it sounds, so I've decided to attempt to watch all of it in one day and see if I can get through it with a sane mind, because I think if I give myself more than one day, I'm never gonna finish it. And so I'm gonna sit here in this room and I'm gonna watch the show, even if it might destroy me. I'm less than 2 minutes into the episode and someone has already said age is just a number. I get that we all know that they're on an age gap dating show, but it seems like if all of your rhetoric is often tied up with less, you know, okay things, then maybe we don't need the show. The main mechanic or gimmick of the show is something called the promise room, where once a couple has decided to commit to each other, they go into this room and they put on these like honestly really cheap looking rings, and eventually they tell each other their ages. And it's like the most interesting and like dramatic moment of the show, but it actually happens really, really early on. I'm almost done with the first episode and the first couple has entered the promise room, and I'm really scared because I've actually gotten really emotionally attached to Teresa really quickly. And the guy, she's like very nervous that he's gonna be young, and I think he is. She's had like 2 failed marriages and a lot of bad relationships, and I feel so like protective of her, and I feel like this is about to be really upsetting. She thinks 30s, hopefully 38. I feel like this man is in his late 20s. That's my guess.
I'm 27 years old.
He's 27.
I'm 54.
She's 54 and he's 27.
Son is older than you.
Her son is 2 years older than him. Her son is 29, he's 27. Once you have the exciting gimmick of the promise room, you still have so much of the show left where they're trying to like figure out if they can merge lives, and it's just like becomes clear very quickly that many of them are just fundamentally uncompatible. And one of the couples that really exemplifies this is the second one, because their age difference and what they've got going on in their lives are just, it's so fundamentally different. We've got our second couple about to go into the promise room. This is Andrew and Libby. He has 2 children, 12 and 14 years old. She laughed in his face when he told her his daughter's ages. He's like, yeah, I think she might be in her 20s. And why is he so okay with that?
I am 38 years young.
38 years young.
22.
38 and 22. Dude, imagine being 22 and like merging your life with someone that has a 14-year-old child and like moving to them and like becoming their mother. He said if I think about it too much, I'm gonna freak out, so I'm just not gonna think about it. But eventually you're gonna have to think about it. So the third couple to go into the promise room, Vanessa and Jorge, actually end up having by far the most dramatic age difference. And you would think that would be interesting, but what it actually reveals is something that I think speaks to a larger issue I have with reality shows, especially Netflix reality shows and the way that they're structured. You go into the show thinking that their issues are gonna be based on the premise and their large age gap, but then eventually you're just watching 2 people have like real interpersonal conflict about communication and that sort of stuff, and it stops feeling like a reality show and it just starts feeling like hidden camera footage that we're not even supposed to be watching. A third couple is in the promise room. She's obsessed with saying that her dad doesn't want her to date someone more than 10 years older than her, which implies that this is a pattern in her life, and I also really think he probably is. Okay, they're about to like promise themselves to each other, and she just said, I don't know if you have kids, and I feel like they would have talked about this by now.
I'm 27.
What?
He's gotta be way more than 10 years older than her.
I'm 60.
She's 27 and he's 60. I'm 2 episodes in so far and the age gaps are getting scary really fast. It's sort of like they're all blind. I'm a little bit more emotionally invested in the show than I expected to be 2 episodes in. I think that the pacing is honestly better than the recent seasons of Love is Blind has been. Oftentimes, a lot of Netflix shows have this issue where people are clearly only on there to grow a social media following. Especially a lot of the older people on the cast are like very genuinely looking for love, which I find sort of surprising, and maybe I'm just being naive. A lot of them seem a little bit uncomfortable on camera, which I think adds to this feeling of genuineness. Like I'm completely aware they all agreed to go on this show, but sometimes when they're like sitting there crying about how they feel like they're gonna be alone for the rest of their lives, it does start to feel as if I'm watching people be like exploited for sport. Like the guy that's with the 22-year-old went on and on about how his usual type is younger and blonde, and so I don't necessarily feel any sort of emotional attachment towards him at all. It's more like Vanilla, who seemed like she really wanted a genuine connection. She's been celibate for 2 years. She's like very in touch with religion and that sort of stuff, and she ends up in a 33-year age gap. Like she says that she wants kids, but the chances that your kid's dad makes it past their like 25th birthday suddenly becomes really, really slim, and it's kind of heartbreaking. But I still have many episodes to go, so woo. So in like the first half of the 3rd episode, 3 more couples get together and they sort of skip through it a little bit and we don't get to see their relationships grow as much, and I think the pacing like wants us to get on to the next section, but what they don't understand is that the next section of the show becomes even more boring and uninteresting and just like sad. I'm suddenly feeling very lied to by this show. I was like, how is everyone ending up with these big dramatic age gaps, and they're doing like a super cut as they're getting us ready for everyone to leave the villa with the connections that they've found, and I'm finding out they just cut out the stories of the people with normal age gaps entirely.
Some found love within their age group.
Big reveal, 46.
Stop it. I'm 47.
The little editors got me. They got me good. There were 3 other couples with completely normal age gaps of like 2 to 4 years, and they just cut out their stories entirely to make the show more interesting. I feel happy that there's more people in the world that don't want to date someone the age of their child. That gratifies me a lot. My faith in humanity is a little bit restored now. And then the next stage of the show is moving into apartments together in the like real world. One of the guys has kids and just didn't tell her.
I have children. And I see your face.
Dude, I don't like him. Because she brought up kids before they did the promise ring thing. She's like, we were talking about it then. Why didn't you bring it up then? And he's like, well, I just thought it wasn't the time. I feel like before she agrees to commit to you, she should know that you have 2 kids. I think you were scared. If you're still scared of being honest at 60 years old, then... So Jorge and Vanilla are having an argument about just like the way that they handle certain types of like dangerous situations, for example. So this conversation that they're having starts because someone like came up to them on the street and was apparently being very disruptive, and Jorge handled it a certain way that Vanilla was like really not comfortable with, and he said something that I think sort of sums up my issue with a lot of dating reality shows, especially the like Netflix format of like weird premise in the villa where it's all separated and then like 6 weeks in the apartments with like real life and then like final decision. He was like, we've gotten past the age gap, we've gotten past the parents, and now we're just navigating like a real interpersonal issue. Is it my place to see that? And also, to what extent does having this conversation with a mic pack and a camera affect the way that you're going to have this conversation? At first we're watching this like funny, interesting social experiment-esque concept. How do people navigate not knowing each other's ages and then ending up in an age gap that they wouldn't have been okay with in the real world? It's interesting to an extent to like go past the fairy tale story that like most movies end at, of like what comes next once they're in the real world. And then I feel like I become so aware in a sudden moment of like how voyeuristic I feel watching the show. Yeah, it's funny that like 2 people have like a big age gap and it's hard to navigate, but then all of a sudden that's not even what they're navigating anymore. Okay, like 1 minute later, this is exactly what I'm talking about.
Can I get this mic off?
She leaves like the apartment into the hallway where there's like producers and audio people, and she's upset and she like wants out of the conversation. So she says, can I get this mic pack off of me? Like, it's very difficult to handle conflict if you feel like the entire world is watching. Almost 2 episodes into them being in the real life apartments, they're navigating whether they're willing to do long distance, if they can communicate the same way. Like, it stops being a dating show, it gets like really personal and real all of a sudden. I know that's where it should be like the most interesting to watch, but but I start to like feel like I'm doing a bad thing by being a viewer, and like not me specifically, but like the concept of there being a viewer in the first place. I went into the show expecting that the big dramatic issue that I had with the contestants was their like desire for really dramatic age gaps, especially if they're like on the older side. But the premise of the show is not actually let's find an age gap relationship. The premise of the show is like let's all go in and date without the bias of knowing each other's ages and see if we end up dating someone we wouldn't have expected to. There seem to be two types of contestants that have gone on the show. One of them are just like normal people looking for a relationship or some sort of connection, and then the other half are people that are admitting that having an age gap in their relationship is like a pattern in their life, and I think that's when it starts to become problematic. Andrew, I would say, is the biggest example of this. Andrew and Libby, he has a 14-year-old daughter, and he keeps saying like, oh, I told my friends I was coming on the show to like find something different, but I'm just like falling back into old habits, which means that like he always wants them younger and fun and a little naive. But when some of the contestants are navigating an age gap relationship, but they've never actually been or had like a really intense desire to have some sort of age gap relationship, specifically Teresa, I would say, is the worst about this, are like so embarrassed about the fact that they ended up with such a dramatic age gap that like when they go to meet their families and they sort of try to navigate this relationship, the like embarrassment and the way that the gap is affecting them makes them like so uncomfortable. Like I signed up for the show expecting to watch people that like wanted an age gap, but actually we're watching people that ended up in an age gap that they like had no real desire for in the first place. And then the one other like exciting aspect of the show happens where they get to meet each other's families, but it sort of ends up just consisting of like every single family member being like, what are you doing, what is wrong with you, over and over again, and then the contestants just sort of getting like really sad and stressed out. And it's at a certain point you're like, why am I watching this? No one in these people's lives thinks that they should be together. They can barely even communicate properly. They're kind of just upset all the time. It's sort of like, no, at 22 you shouldn't become a stepmom. At 38 you shouldn't continue to go after young blonde women when you have grown daughters. If you want kids, you shouldn't be dating someone 15 years older than you who's on a biological clock. I did it. It turns out that the finale is not out yet, and I'm not gonna find out how any of it ends yet, but I tell you a little secret, that doesn't matter. None of these, at least based on the edit in the show and what I have watched, none of these people should be together. They should all take their promise rings off and go their separate ways. So I guess the final question is, does age matter? Yeah. And you know what? I kind of think we already knew that.